Hello folks, hope you're well. So, okay, for centuries and centuries and centuries, the understanding was if you are good, you go to heaven. If you are evil, you go to hell. Okay. Well, we know, for a matter of fact, absolutely and totally, that just is not true. There is no truth to those statements at all. Well, let's look at it from one point of view, okay? Let's say Hitler, or let's say someone worse than Hitler. Let's say the person who was actually throwing the Jewish people into the gas chambers to kill them was encouraging the soldiers to ridicule them. Say the person behind that idea, the person who was promoting it, pushing it. Let's say that person, for a while after the war, started helping and trying to bless Jewish people. Would all the evil that is done be outdone by the good? No. Of course not. And yet, we have a character in the Bible originally called Saul, then called Paul, who did exactly that. He didn't throw Christians into gas chambers, but had there been gas chambers, he would have. Saul would have, wouldn't he? If those would have been available, because he disdained Christians to that degree, didn't he? Right? He had them stoned, he had them thrown to the lions, etc., etc., etc. So therefore he killed, or had Christians killed. Right? He hunted for them to kill them. Yes? But then he was changed from Saul to Paul. But could his deeds as Paul clean up the deeds of Saul? Was there any possibility that would be the case? No. There was no way, shape or form Saul's deeds could be cleaned up by Paul's deeds. No way, shape or form. They stand alone. And he committed murder. Or encouraged and celebrated the committing of murder. But then again, would that be cleaned up by the saving of a life, saving of a soul? The answer is no. And part of the reason the answer is no is because of the fact that Paul did nothing whatsoever to save a soul. In a sense that the soul was already saved. Right? Yeshua had already came down, done what he was going to do, gone back up, and therefore the covering of sin had happened. He was the Lamb of God. That didn't get made any more true because of what Paul did. Did he help people to receive that? One would have to say yes, because most of the teachings that we have come from Paul, so we have to say yes to that. But again, really, what his job was, the same as the job of Peter, same as the job of John and others, was to set up this new church. Because there was already a church called Judaism. And because there was Judaism, and this was a new creation that Yeshua came down to create, it would have to have a body of a sense. So therefore, they were creating this new church. They weren't necessarily creating the understanding of what Yeshua did, really what he did would mean. Yeah? Complicated, isn't it? So, yeah. Good and evil, doesn't matter. Basically, it doesn't matter. Because again, if Paul had understood, or if Peter had understood, then they would be saying, sin is not the point now. Sin has been paid for. Because sin is paid for, let's ignore sin right now, from the point of view that sin is in the way of relationship with God. Pre-Christ, sin was most definitely in the way of relationship with God. Right? After Christ, sin was no longer in the way. So, okay, what was in the way? Because, guarantee you, there would have been things in the way. Well, what was in the way was the way we lived, the way we did things, and the teaching that was available to us about God, about the nature of God, etc., etc., etc. Yeah. A lot of these things were in the way. Now, they're still in the way now. Right? 2,000 years later, or just over, they're still in the way now. And so, therefore, obviously, understandable for people with a lack of knowledge over the years to believe that if you're good, you go to heaven, if you're bad, you go to hell. And there are still people now who would have those beliefs, who would believe it's as simple and as black and white as that. But it isn't, you see. If it was, then, okay, the prison systems around the world would be justified. Because evil people should be locked up and should stay in prison. Even though when they're in prison, they get worse. Most people tend to learn to be worse as a human being in prison. So when they get out, they just end up going back to prison, right? But therefore that would be right because they're evil. And because they're evil, they shouldn't belong around good people, right? But that's a worldly thinking. It's not God's thinking. So the whole point about evil is incorrect. The whole point about good is incorrect because it's about how we judge. That's why it's called the knowledge of good and evil. Because the knowledge changes. Because, well, okay, we live in a society now where things that were accepted and counted as good in the past are now counted as evil. Right, so lines have been redrawn now. What was good is now evil. Therefore, if the knowledge of good and evil can change, who was good before is now evil. Who was evil before is now good. Put it this way, we have a society now. And this is America, Europe, UK, other countries as well, Canada, where it's highly left-wing pushing, where they've basically been pushing gender assignments on young children. Yeah, schools, teachers, social workers, even the government have been pushing this crap. And that is child abuse. So now child abuse is good. Right? What they're doing is abusing children. But that's good because they're doing it for a reason that they think is good. So therefore now child abuse is good. Right? Trying to protect children from child abusers is now bad. Right? because the lines have been redrawn. So you can never go by the point of good and evil, because what is good now might not be good in the future. What is evil now might not be seen as evil in the future. And yeah, these teachers, these schools, these systems that have been pushing this crap onto children, that is child abuse. It really is. And it should have been recognised as that, but it wasn't. So here we are. There's a lot of children that have had to go through treatments because of the pressure of adults. And the pressure of being in a school. As I've said before, if you're a young child in school and you're pretty much alone in school, you don't have a lot of friends. You go into school on the Monday and you see a child being celebrated and cheered in the school by all the teachers. You're lifted up as a hero because that child was a girl but now identifies as a boy, or vice versa. If you want to have more friends, if you don't want to feel alone anymore, this is now an avenue for you to go down, because you see that if you decide the same thing, you might get the same cheers. You might get people patting you on the back and saying, "Oh, well done, you're such a hero." But of course, the child that you saw on a Monday was not a hero, hadn't done well. There was peer pressure on that child that is demonic. But now the demonic is seen as good. Good is translated as of God. Right? Yeah. So there you go. I'm going to leave it to it. But yeah. Understand good and evil. Yeah, you can't rely upon that. You can't rely judging on that. Okay? So you take care. God bless. I'll speak to you soon. Be a blessing, be blessed, and have a fantastic weekend ahead. Bye.